Over the past 18 months, Israel has propagated many lies about its assaults. This is troubling given that international media are not allowed to enter the Gaza Strip, and local Gazan journalists are being killed at an alarming rate. What follows is a list of 20 Israeli lies. Lie 20. Tweet from the IDF, October 23, 2023. This would have been a photo of a lifeless pregnant woman next to her beheaded unborn baby cut out of her belly by Hamas terrorists. Due to this platform's guidelines, we can't show you that. Every word in this tweet is a lie. The goal was to dehumanize Gazans. Lie 19. Dr. Elkayam Levi was awarded the 2024 Israel Prize for her work on the events of October 7th. Yet her reports are riddled with falsehoods. She created a fake civilian commission to raise funds, cited the fabricated story of a disemboweled woman, and used unrelated images of rape and murder found online. Lie 18. Israel has acknowledged using the Hannibal Directive on October 7th and carrying out 945 attacks, firing 11,000 times. The final death toll stands at 1,139. Yet it reports no deaths from friendly fire, a silence that amounts to a lie by omission. Any Israeli who contradicts the official narrative risks up to 5 years in prison. Lie 17. Israel has issued statements claiming that there are no innocent civilians in Gaza, a message widely repeated by government officials. However, under international law, only two categories exist: civilians and combatants. Introducing a distinction between civilians and innocent civilians creates an artificial loophole used to justify unlawful harm. Lie 16. Hind Rajab and her family were attacked in Gaza City while trying to flee. Hind, the sole remaining survivor, begged to be rescued during a phone call with the Palestinian Red Crescent Society that lasted more than 3 hours. An ambulance, dispatched in coordination with Israeli authorities, was destroyed, killing 2 paramedics. The Israeli army denied having any forces in the area, but satellite imagery, forensic analysis, and eyewitness accounts contradict this claim. Lie 15. Terrorists executed. The Israeli army posted a doctored video claiming the elimination of combatants. But their own footage shows unarmed individuals raising their hands, stripping off their t-shirts to make white flags, and kneeling to surrender, before IDF soldiers execute them, plant a weapon, and declare, terrorists eliminated. Lie 14. Israel justified the destruction of Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza by claiming it was a Hamas base. However, an investigation by Forensic Architecture and Al-Haq, using satellite imagery, videos, and other evidence, disputes this. The study documented damage to the hospital, attacks on medical staff and civilians, and concluded that Israeli actions violated international law, with no evidence supporting its claims. Lie 13. The tunnel that never was. A photo circulated during the debate over the Philadelphia Axis and the hostage deal, claiming to show a tunnel. In reality, it was just a ditch covered in dirt, fabricated to exaggerate the Philadelphia Axis significance and delay the hostage deal. Lie 12. 15 paramedics were killed in Gaza. The IDF claimed the vehicles approached suspiciously, without headlights or emergency signals. But new video shows they had both. Fox News correspondent Trey Yingst, who spoke with the IDF multiple times, confirms their claim is clearly false. The 3 next pieces challenge the idea that the IDF is the most moral army in the world. Lie 11. The most moral army in the world practices looting. The deputy commander of the IDF loot unit, 500 soldiers, Lieutenant Colonel Adon Sharon Cutler, details the treasures seized by his unit. Cash, gold bars, jewelry, valuables worth millions of shekels. International law under the Geneva Conventions prohibits looting during wartime. Lie 10. The most moral army in the world uses human shields. In Gaza, Israeli soldiers use civilians as human shields. A senior officer who served in Gaza for 9 months describes these procedures to Haaretz, saying he first witnessed them in December 2023. International law prohibits the use of civilians as human shields. It is a war crime. Lie 9. The IDF, the most moral army in the world, has a policy to kill civilians. Israeli military analyst, Noam Amir, reports, I was in the strip, and the commanders are saying clearly, anyone walking on 2 legs and not a soldier, dies. The intentional killing of civilians constitutes a grave breach of international humanitarian law, and it is classified as a war crime under the Geneva Conventions. Lie 8. A huge billboard in Times Square tells us that Hamas are savages who tortured and starved Israeli hostages. Not a word about the torture and lack of food in Israeli prisons, a lie by omission. Furthermore, let's remember that it is Gaza that lacks food, not Israel. Lie 7. 2 university professors falsely nominated Daniela Weiss, the notorious Israeli settlements leader who urged for Gazans to be starved, for the Nobel Peace Prize. Despite the ICJ ruling that Israeli settlements in the West Bank are illegal, they ignored international law and her role in perpetuating these violations. The ICJ called for Israel to end its occupation and for settlers to leave the territories. Lie 6. According to JNS, representatives of the Israel Defense Forces told members of the Knesset Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee that there is no settler violence in Judea and Samaria. Yet the ongoing cases of violence in the West Bank are well documented. Among these records is the Oscar-winning film No Other Land. Lie 5. Israeli military orders. Rain is the property of the Israeli authorities, and thus Palestinians are forbidden from gathering rainwater for domestic or agricultural needs. Israel's claim could not be further from the truth. Under international humanitarian law, Israel, as an occupying power, must not prevent the occupied population from accessing essential natural resources, including water. Lie 4. According to an article in The New Yorker, press coverage of dead Palestinian children is framed as a new form of antisemitism. Massive outrage erupts, petitions against pro-Palestinian pins on work uniforms, employees fired over social media posts, accusations of supporting terrorism for expressing solidarity with Palestinians. Deportation. But the outrage proves highly selective. When a member of Congress wears an IDF uniform, or when Israeli flags cover the halls of Congress, the same voices fall silent. The lie is not only in the smearing of solidarity, it is in pretending that outrage belongs to one side alone. Lie 3. Massacre on September 29, 2024, Lebanon. The IDF claimed it targeted a Hezbollah command center, and that the overwhelming majority of those killed were terror operatives. But a BBC investigation found that 62 of the 68 victims were civilians, including 23 children, and none of the Hezbollah affiliates identified held senior ranks. The claim of an overwhelming majority was not just false, it was an attempt to erase civilian lives from the official record. Lie 2. The U.S. House of Representatives declared that there is no apartheid in Palestine, dismissing years of documented evidence. Furthermore, it failed to consult experts, choosing instead to align with political interests. Meanwhile, the International Court of Justice conducted a thorough, months-long review and concluded that Israel's practices do amount to apartheid, a finding based on law, not politics. Lie 1. Addressing Congress, Netanyahu claimed that 1,203 terrorists were killed in Rafah, with practically no civilians among the casualties. It's curious that the same leader who told soldiers to remember what Amalek did to them, and whose government has repeatedly insisted for 18 months that there are no innocents in Gaza, now claims his soldiers made efforts not to kill civilians. CNN's fact-check concludes, Netanyahu's claim that there were practically no civilian deaths in Rafah, aside from one incident, is false. Netanyahu presents himself as the representative of civilization against barbarism, while lying to conceal Israel's violations of international law in Gaza. Doesn't this make him the opposite of what he claims to be? He denies the innocence of Gaza's civilians, including its children. By erasing their humanity, isn't he, in essence, killing Anne Frank once more, the symbol of childhood destroyed by hate? Epilogue. A new commander came to us. We went out with him on the first patrol at 6 in the morning. He stops. There's not a soul in the streets, just a little 4-year-old boy playing in the sand in his yard. The commander suddenly starts running, grabs the boy, and breaks his arm at the elbow and his leg here. Stepped on his stomach 3 times and left. We all stood there with our mouths open, looking at him in shock. I asked the commander, "What's your story?" He told me, "These kids need to be killed from the day they are born." When a commander does that, it becomes legit.